This is the Prospeaker Podcast with Tim Stackpool.
Marketing, it's all about telling the world how great you or how great your products are. And it's probably the most important thing you can do in business, apart from actually operating your own business. And relentless, effective marketing is what Edward Zia is all about. And he's actually a lot of things. He's a marketing mentor, a personal coach, an online educator, a blogger, an event speaker, a master of ceremonies. He loves helping entrepreneurs win big and loves business, growth, success, politics, and anything entertaining, especially if it's slightly controversial. And he joins us now on the Prospeaker Podcast. Thanks for having me, Edward, in your office.
Tim, I just got to say it's an incredible honour to be in presence of such a good-looking guy, Tim.
And Edward, it is actually quite special that I'm here in your office because most of the time when I do interviews on the Prospeaker Podcast, it's via somebody who's on the other end of it with Skype or some other online communication system. How is it that you've actually got the time to catch up with me today?
Well, there's several reasons and answers to that awesome question, Tim. And I'll tell you the first thing, which has been a huge revolution to not only my own life, but the life of many others. What happened was I met an amazing woman some years ago and married her, and we've got children now, more children coming in. When I met that amazing woman, we had a big conversation about restructuring our business so we can help people, but without it taking all those hours. You know what I'm saying, Tim? Mm-hmm. And so what we did in doing that was, in the old days as a coach mentor, all my clients used to be one-on-one. And then what we did was we created online courses, online products, and started doing workshops. So what it meant was, we can help more people, earn more money, but it doesn't take as many hours. It gives me time to invest with amazing people like yourself.
So I mentioned earlier about effective, relentless marketing, and anyone who's even slightly connected with you on a business or social network cannot avoid Edward Zia.
Yes.
Facebook Live posts, there's selfies with clients. Is that saturation required in the noisy environment of marketing these days?
Yes, it is. And I'll give you an interesting answer. What I do is I like to do about 5 posts a day on social media, be it LinkedIn's my primary platform, and I just replicate the similar content across Facebook and Instagram. Now, I'll give you this point of view, right? On average, and these are the last time I remember the stats, but most people usually log into LinkedIn once or twice a day. If I only post once a day, it probably won't see my content. But if I'm posting several times a day, it's more likely that they'll see my content. You've got to think about it from this point of view. Everyone's posting on these platforms. So if you really want to cut through, you not only have to have good content, but you've got to have repetition. What I say to most clients and who do very well at a social media, for example, is usually they post 2 or 3 times a day. It can just be a photo, it can be a 1-minute video giving some tips, or could even be a quote. It doesn't have to be anything heavy, but the point is that repetition on a daily basis.
If we wind back a little bit, because we do actually want to talk about you and about what you present on stage, but prior to your current life, you were a combat engineer in the Australian Army.
That is correct.
How did you get from there to here?
Well, that's a great question. And I love your questions, Tim. And did I say that you're a good-looking guy?
Yes. Move along,
Very
please.
Bruce Willisy. So what it is that so when I was 19, I actually joined the Australian Army as a combat engineer. I was actually in the Army Reserve at the time. And what happened at the time, Awesome Tim, was that based on my heritage, I was very, very lucky to get involved in a certain federal task force in drug enforcement, coming from a Middle Eastern Islamic type of background. Now, what was interesting about that all, Tim, was that I got to see some amazing stuff. And I was a very young guy helping the feds clean up the streets of Melbourne. It was incredible. Now, whoever thought that undercover drug work would be dangerous? Would you ever think it would be dangerous, Tim?
I would think it would be dangerous.
It turns out it was. And so what happened was got injured very badly on a sting that went bad. And that left me very, very sick and very on the edge. So I was very on the edge of living, actually.
Wow.
In hospital for a few weeks. And when I got out, I was just being honest, I was too sick to continue in the government. Right? And so what it was, the government was actually quite good. They sort of helped me rehabilitate. And I actually went off and decided to actually finish at uni. Long story short, did a degree in actual chemistry.
Wow.
Went into a chemical company, working for them, great company. And I wasn't very good. And they fired me from the laboratory and said, Ed, we're going to fire you, but give you a car, increase your paycheck by 20 grand, and we want you to talk to our customers. And that's when I first got my taste of sales and marketing. Then I did my marketing postgrad at Monash, and I then just fell in love with marketing. And then, Worked as a corporate for a few years. Peak of my career was marketing director at West Point Casino. And when I got the 30-year itch, Tim, and I started my business when I was about 32, 33, and it's been wonderful.
And I guess over that time, you've tried various ways of promoting yourself and your clients.
Yes.
Are there things that you've done where you've thought this is really going to work, and then all of a sudden it doesn't?
Oh, all the time. So these days it's quite different because you know what you're doing. You would know that, Tim. When I was starting out, I did a lot of things that just didn't work. And I'll tell you the top three things that did not work. Number one was having warped expectations. And what I mean by warped expectations is, oh my God, I've just started a Facebook ad. It's been going for 4 hours. Where are all my leads? No, you might have to leave that Facebook ad going for 2 months until it brings in leads based on the amount of repetition. So number one was having warped, ridiculous expectations. Number two, Tim, was, and I always challenged this, when I started my business, there was this horrible saying going around called fake it till you make it. Mm-hmm. And to me, fake it till you make it means lie, deceive, and distort, right? And I never bought into that. And to me, the people that bought into that really got into trouble. So I realized very quickly this whole fake it till you make it craze is just awful. So I went for authenticity. I just told people the truth. Yep, I'm starting my business. No, I haven't got any clients yet, but I'm here to give it a shot. It worked great. So really moving away from that fake it till you make it was a great move. And the third point, Tim, I think that I really learned earlier on that really worked was you can't hide behind a keyboard. In other words, for one time there, I tried to get all my clients just by putting out Facebook and LinkedIn posts. It didn't work. I needed a combination of real world and online world. And there my key insights are from the starting days, Tim.
Yeah, certainly. I do recall early days of radio, the sales department office was the worst office in the building because the sales manager didn't want his salespeople in the building.
Yeah.
He wanted them out talking to the clients. That's right. So they always had pretty hideous digs in radio stations' sales departments, at least from my observation. These days, I think, unfortunately, a lot of managers think that you can do all the work online, on the phone, from your office. And if you're not in your office, they want to know where you are.
Yeah.
Whereas really, you should be out talking to your clients.
Yeah. And to me, it's a hybrid. So, for example, in our business, and happens for a lot of our clients too, we use a mixture. So, for example, every fortnight, I run a free evening meetup called Profitable Marketing. I'm quite often at WeWork Piedmont. And we do that every fortnight, and that's real world. But what's interesting, though, is, so for example, every fortnight I run an event, we'll get 50 to 90 people every time. Very invited, Tim. We're on this Tuesday.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Now, what happens in these events, awesome, Tim, is that we get all these people in, and it's a mixture because I'll use online and the phone to film my real world event. While I'm having the real world event, I'm taking photos and putting them on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. So to me, it's a hybrid. It's a mixture of the real world and a mixture of the online world. And when you get that right, that's when it's very powerful.
But you're also repurposing opportunities, aren't you? Because you're having these meetup meetings and then you're using the content that's created there or the opportunity that's created there in order to advertise yourself and market yourself online.
Exactly.
And I guess repurposing is probably really important today. Again, going back to the broadcast scenario that I'm probably more familiar with, we create content and then we try and repurpose it as much as we can online.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
But we are talking about pro speaking today, and pretty much, I guess this is a very important part of what you're doing. It's an obvious mix. It's an obvious part of the mix for you. But the first time you had to get up in front of a public audience and talk about the marketing that you offer, how did that go?
Oh, it was interesting. I remember it was at a networking event. I remember actually it was at a networking event in Liverpool, Liverpool of Sydney, which for our viewers across the world, Liverpool in Sydney is, we'll say, a working class suburb. And it's probably located, probably about 30, 40 kilometres away from Sydney CBD.
It's a bit of a drive.
Good hour drive. Mm-hmm. And what was interesting is in that scenario, it was about 10, 15 people at this networking breakfast. And I was terrified. I was covered in sweat. I was shaking. I did a terrible job. I was incoherent. I made dumb points. And it was awful. It was disgusting. It was pathetic. However, there's a big however to this one. After the fifth time I spoke, I started getting good at it. Mm-hmm. And that's where it all happened to me. And I've seen this, I've worked with thousands of people as well, thousands of clients. What's interesting is that people don't get good. You usually have to speak at least 5 times until you get good at it. So I think it's a matter of nothing wrong with sucking a little bit. You get good at it eventually.
And you should probably look at those opportunities, which are maybe, dare I say, not that important in order to hone your skills. If perhaps you are publishing a book, perhaps you might want to talk to a local library group before you actually go to the bookstore where you hope to sell 50 copies.
Exactly. A very good strategy we recommend today, and what I've done personally, and I suggest to a lot of people, is start a meetup group. So Meetup, great company, great platform. But what I say to people is, what really helped my public speaking take off was when I started my own meetup group. Because if you're relying on other people's events to get speaking gigs, at the start at least, your speaking gigs will be few and far between. But if you start your own fortnightly meetup group, you've now got 2 speaking slots a month. So what actually made my public speaking great was starting my own meetup groups. I had 2 speaking slots a month, and then mine.
So this is quite the opportunity, isn't it? Because basically you want more speaking gigs. Anyone who's listening to the podcast may be wanting more speaking gigs. Well, why not generate them yourself?
Yeah, start a meetup group, because I'll give you an example. And I know you're like this, Tim. You're very sought after, and you're killing it, right? You're very, very popular.
And
right?
I'm very attractive too, apparently.
And very good looking. Definitely that Jason Statham, Bruce Willis thing going down. And also Patrick Stewart too, who's a great actor. Star Trek Next Generation was the best Star Trek of them all. So what's very important, and Deep Space Nine was terrible. So what's very important is that, and this is the way that it plays out, Tim, is that at the start, when you're relying on other people for speaking gigs, you're not going to get them. And they're going to be rats and mice. They're not going to be great. However, when you create your own meetup group, you've now got a speaking gig. You've now got 2 a month. Then what happens is, if you're running, let's say, an event, a meetup every fortnight, which is what I started 2017, after 3 months, you're getting pretty good at it. That's like 6, you've had 6 speaking opportunities. And the other thing that also does as well is you get photos of yourself up
to bring people
in front of people, and that gives you the proof to get actual speaking gigs, be it paid or bigger stuff.
Yeah, so you're creating the collateral. However, you do have to create content which is compelling enough to bring people back.
Exactly.
You don't necessarily want to create content which perhaps would give you a bad response online, for instance, that was a waste of time, people coming. Yeah. So where's the trick there? Is it all in terms of preparation? Is it in terms of understanding what the market might be expecting or might find useful?
Yeah. I suppose it comes back to, what do you actually do, right? So to me, it's what do you actually do and what's the value of what you do? Okay, so for example, I'm a marketing mentor and coach. So if I create a meetup group or an event series based on ideas of sales and marketing, it's a perfect fit for what I do, because again, if someone likes my ideas, they'll hire me, which is what they do every time. So what I always say to people is, look at yourself, look at your ideas. What are the actual ideas that you have? What's your business that you're trying to sell? And the idea is sharing free ideas and tips based on your business. So give you an example. Let's say I sold investment properties. I would run a meetup on property investing, giving free tips on property investing. Done. Let's say I was a public speaking coach. I would give public speaking tips. And you do it from that point of view, because what then happens is, when people see you in action and they like your ideas, it builds trust. You make money out of it. So even though I do a meetup for free, I make thousands of dollars out of it because people hire you.
I just want to go back a moment. First of all, Edward, just explain, you mentioned Meetup. Yeah. What actually is that?
Yeah. Meetup is a massive company which is owned by WeWork, and Meetup is basically a software platform and community where you can run events, and it's really, really good. It's actually a 9/11 business, meaning right after 9/11, it was actually created by an awesome guy called Scott Heffernan in New York, and he built the Meetup platform, and originally it was just designed to bring New Yorkers together. It took off, became a worldwide success, and now Meetup's a very good place to create your own events in your own community. And the best thing I always suggest to people, if you jump on meetup.com, you can use the app as well on your phone. You can see other meetup groups that are probably in your area. Just go visit them and check it out. Now, going back to the whole point of the speaking, the reason why I brought up Meetup is my speaking was very fledgling at the start. It wasn't until I started my own meetup that it gave me the regular opportunity to really polish and hone my skills. So for example, and I'm very honored by this, I'm actually guest speaking at the Professional Speakers Association, and that's insane. Like if you met me if you said to me 10 years ago, Edward, you're going to be guest speaking at a Speakers Association, I would have laughed at you. No, it was interesting. One of the people came to one of our events and she goes, Ed, you're one of the best speakers I've ever heard. I'm speaking at the Professional Speakers Association. Now, the only way that happened is because of Meetup, because Meetup gave me the opportunity to practice my skill so I could pick up that opportunity.
It seems like a no-brainer, doesn't it? Let me go back to a conference that I heard you speak at. In fact, I was the MC at the time, and rather than you just turning up minutes before you were
Oh,
due.
that was the pro-Trump conference, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that was
it was one of them.
Yeah, the pro-Trump conference. That was a good
We'll
one.
come to all of this in a minute. However, it was a professional services marketing conference. And rather than you, like many speakers, just turned up an hour before you were due to speak, you were actually there for the whole day. You were there before the event started, and I think you were speaking in the afternoon, and you spent all day with the delegates, listening to the other speakers. Is that how you do your prep? Was that unusual for you?
No, very common, because what I do, and I'll give you an example, as just for the sake of speakers, we're actually at WeWork Piedmont now, in Room J, actually doing this podcast. And what's interesting is that I've actually got an event tonight. So I'm due to do an event 6 p.m. tonight at WeWork Piedmont, the same property. Right now it's about 4:19 p.m. So from that, it will be done in 10, 20 minutes. I'll actually be 1.5 hours early before my event. So it's quite normal for me to be there unless I've got a client or unless there's a problem. If I have got the choice, I will be there early before an event. And it just works. It just works.
Well, what do you get from that, though?
What I get from that is several things, 3 things. When I go to an event early, it gives me a chance to calm down and relax so I don't sound hot and bothered. Secondly, it gives me a chance to absorb the vibe of the audience in the room. And number 3, it gives me a chance to relax. So when I go up and speak, I sound great and I do a great job in helping the audience.
Yeah, so you're not alienated by the room, irrespective of what size it is or,
No, don't care.
or perhaps how big the PA is, that sort of thing.
No, don't care.
You're not necessarily new to the environment, which I guess is important for a whole lot of jobs. When you first walk into a new office, you're unfamiliar with the surroundings, you don't feel comfortable. Actors do the same when they're working in new theatres. I know a lot of people in television. Has they spend time in a studio before they start rolling? So I guess it's kind of like the same thing. Now, there's nothing but positive vibes from you for as long as I've known you and for as long as I've known of you. You're very much on all the time. But has there been a time, I guess, when you said you were injured, when things weren't going so well for you, physically and mentally?
Oh, well, what happened to me, on a funny note, I've had a few, but the noteworthy one for the sake of the podcast was, so right now I'm 40. I'm a 40-year-old man. I've lost a lot of weight. I look great. Yeah, okay. No. But what was interesting, though, was in my 20s, what was interesting, after my government days, I had a few really good years in my 20s where I had a very successful corporate career as a marketing manager, then director. Now, what I did, though, the darkness, the dark undercurrent there was, Tim, was that I made some bad choices that caught up with me. And several of the choices was that I spent all my money. Mm-hmm. So fast cars, women, alcohol, spent all my money. So I wasn't, even though I was earning like 6 figures, I wasn't keeping it. The second thing I was as well is that I entered bad relationships. So I entered a few relationships in my early 30s and also my 20s, which just wasted my time and cleaned me out financially. So what happened is that these bad relationships that I entered would just clean me out. And what was interesting was that when I hit my 30s, right, when I turned 30, I actually had no money. I was actually in debt from a few bad decisions and bad relationships. And also too, Tim, was that it was during the GFC and I was actually unemployed at the time. So I used to be a 6-figure corporate. And then I found myself unemployed in the GFC, in debt, in credit card debt. And what I realized was that I know how I got myself into that trouble. And as I started to get on with life, I had a few more bad relationships before I eventually quit and met my awesome wife and started a family and all that. But what was interesting, though, was that what always got me into trouble, this is what I say to people, is I would let other people control my life journey. I wouldn't control my own life journey. So to me, what's very important is you don't listen to other people. You really plan your own life accordingly. And I started my business when I was 32, 33, 7, 8 years ago. And to me, that was my own decision to say, look, my life's not working out. This is the direction I want to do. And it's been great. I had a few ups and downs like you all do, but overall my life is way better than what it was a decade ago.
And it's coming along very well, as you say, just in those less than 10 years that you had it up and running. And when you first begin working with another business, with a client, and you're developing a marketing strategy, there comes a time when you have to look deeper into their business and see whether their core operation is actually sound. Do you find yourself having to move from just being a marketing consultant to being a business mentor as well in order for the marketing to be effective?
All the time. Like, for example, I met with a client today. Now, before coming here, And I was giving him advice on how to get his wife better involved. He's got some problems with his wife, and I was giving some tips on that one. Monday, I was giving one of my clients weight loss advice and fitness advice. So because what will happen is, and this is what I say, so if you look at my LinkedIn, and please add me on LinkedIn, of course, everyone, it says marketing, mentor, and coach. But when you're dealing, I'll give you this answer. When you're a coach, and especially working with entrepreneurs, it's a lot more than, jump on LinkedIn and do this. It's about the health of their person, their mindset, their confidence, and everything. So, for example, I can tell anyone, okay, go do a meetup group every fortnight. But if they don't have the confidence to string a sentence together, there's a problem there. So quite often, I'll jump off marketing per se, and I'll go into entrepreneurship, health, or even sales.
In order to get their focus correct, or in order to get their business together?
Yes to both, yes to everything. Right. Because I'll give you an example of, so I call myself a marketing mentor and coach. About a year ago, I started doing a lot of sales training, because what would happen is that I would tell people, I'd help people do this great marketing, come up with this great plan. And then they'd say to me, Ed, what do I do when leads come in at sales? Or Ed, I'm going to go to New South Wales Business Chamber, which is an awesome chamber, by the way. What do I say to people? Sales. So what would happen was that even though I set out to be a marketing mentor, organically teaching sales has become a core component of what I do.
So how do you see your business may change over time?
Well, the way the business is changing now, and I can see it changing more, is it's definitely teaching a lot more marketing and sales, a lot more entrepreneurship, but in my case, it's doing a lot more online products, and also a lot of online products, online programs, a lot of workshops, and more public speaking. That's the way I see it morphing, because what you get is some people love hiring me face-to-face, where a lot love accessing my ideas and that online and me remotely, so it depends. But the big trends that I see is more online access, more online communities, but more public speaking and workshops. That's what people want to see.
Now, oftentimes we see people in your position become specialists in their field and publish and write a book. Do you think that's a little too passive for you? I mean, you're more into getting in front of people, the meetup groups we've talked about.
I blog. So in my case, a book is on the cards. However, it's not a number one priority for us, because I blog every day, and also I do videos and content on social media every day. And I've got a lot of clients who've got books. And just to be honest with you, I'm all for writing books. I'm not dissing book writing. However, I've got a lot of clients who've written books that the books haven't given them the mileage that they've presented. So, for example, I've gotten more mileage, and what I mean by mileage is clients and money, through doing videos and blogging than people I know who've written books.
Sure. Because when you create the books, of course, you have to go through the marketing and the market penetration in order for it to be effective anyway.
Yeah. And here's the thing with, now just so you know, I'm all for writing books. I'm pro writing books. I will write a book at some point, right? However, I've found so many people, and when I say so many, I mean at least 30 cases of people doing books. They do books. And they don't sell any books. Yeah. The books don't give them the credibility. Whereas if they just didn't write a book and just started blogging every day on a LinkedIn, they'd have way more customers and money. So the whole book thing, I'm all for books, but I find most people think the book is their nuclear missile that's going to end the war. No. The people I know I'll tell you now, the people who've done well out of books, they're already successful in business. Then they pay someone to help them do a great book, and then they make their money.
Yes. But the other thing is too that I think is perhaps a book can be appropriate for one industry and not for another. So if you were a geophysicist, it might well be that, or a philosopher, that the book is pretty much well respected and will work for you.
Absolutely.
But perhaps if you're a video blogger, why would you write a book?
Yeah. And the thing is, what the problem that I have, and I couldn't agree with you more, Tim, the problem that I have with what you just said is that those video bloggers are being told that the books are their nuclear missiles. And it's just not, right? So to me, I'll give you an example. The book that I'm actually pondering right now, and it'll probably be on the list for next year. We're going to pay someone to help us do it. But I want to do a book of like 150 Ed quotes or something funny like that.
Sure.
Something simple, something more on the fun thing. I don't want to do a big, thick novel or anything. Not interested. And I think that'll be great. I think it'll be quite funny, right? And it'll work great. But I suppose what it is, though, the people I know who've done well out of books, including one of my mentors, Stefan Thomas from the UK, they were already successful and then they did a book. Then they made a lot of money. But the people like nobodies who write books, I never saw them get any mileage.
Yeah. Now, Let's move on to the topics that we're often told to avoid politely. When it comes to politics and spirituality, however you wear your heart on your sleeve. Do you think that's wise?
No. I'll tell you why. I have an interesting bit of trivia for you. You will notice on my LinkedIn it says that I'm a Christian under the profile. What was interesting was that I think it was about 2 years ago I did that from memory. And what was interesting is I was very nervous when I was adding Christian to my LinkedIn profile, right? Now, what was interesting, guess what happened after I added Christian to my LinkedIn profile? Started getting all these leads.
Yeah.
He would say, wow, Ed, I can't believe you're saying you're a Christian on LinkedIn. Hey, Ed, I'm a Christian too. I'm looking for a Christian mentor to help me out.
Right.
So I started making all this money. Now, what I've done is one of my other clients, an amazing woman, Lorraine Macassini, she put Christian on her LinkedIn profile and she got all these leads as well. Because what's very important, and this is where you have to be intelligent and smart, right? If you look at people who are very successful, everyone, they're very clear on who they are and they don't care who they offend, right? I want to use a few interesting examples. I was talking to my wife this here the other day. Michelle Bridges. You would know Michelle Bridges, right? Yep. She is funny. And she has a lot of critics, right? Michelle Bridges has basically declared war on fat people and she's not apologetic about it, right? Now, a lot of people hate her and I've said, now I like Michelle Bridges, but a lot of people have said horrible stuff about her because she just declares war on fatness, right? She's doing pretty well, right? Doing pretty well. Hillary Clinton was recently speaking in Sydney. She packed out the ICC. It's like $500 a ticket towards the end, right? She's very opinionated, Hillary Clinton. She doesn't care. She's busy making money, right? So I suppose what it is that if you look at really successful people, they actually are polarizing characters. Because I'll give you an example. The whole fence sitters don't stand out, right? Now, in fact, I'll give you this example. I was having this funny chat with someone the other day. Let's say someone walked up to me, and let's say I told someone I'm a Christian, right? They might hate Christians, and a lot of people do, and they might say, well, that Ed said he's a Christian. I hate him because he said he's a Christian. Let's say they ask me my religion, I wouldn't answer him. They'll then turn around and say, oh, that Ed, he's just being dishonest. He won't tell me that he's a Christian. And let's say I lie and say I'm not a Christian. Well, that Ed's a liar. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you say. People are going to hate you anyway.
Some people are going to hate you anyway.
And to me, what's very important is you've got to be authentic and make a stand. If you look at, Hillary Clinton, Michelle Bridges, Donald Trump, Ida Buttrose, they all have a stand on something, right? In fact, I don't know any leaders who walk the line that are successful these days.
You mentioned Trump earlier on. I mean, obviously he ignites something in you. And is it because he's a polarizing person, because he stands up and he has opinions and therefore he becomes a shining light for those people that find that attractive? Well,
what's interesting with Trump is, so I lived in America for a short while there, and I was actually a Trump fan before he was out in Australia, right? This is a long time ago.
Before anyone in Australia knew who he was.
Yeah, exactly. Way before The Apprentice. And I was actually quite into Trump. And when The Apprentice came out in Australia, I'm like, oh, cool, Trump's making his influence, right? And what was interesting is that the thing with Trump, this is what a lot of people, I like to explain to a lot of people. Trump obviously is a Republican president. Trump was a Democrat most of his life. And Trump as a Democrat, and politics works, he was awarded awards by the black community, Latino community. He was all about minorities. And all of a sudden, the moment he became a Republican, he now loves Hitler. And now he's a Nazi, and he's a KKK leader, and he tortures
from your perspective.
Yeah, but that's what people say, right?
Okay, all right. Yes.
But of course, I don't think that. But what I mean is that Trump, for his whole life, was considered one of the most liberal and tolerant guys. And the moment he became a Republican, all his friends just turned on him and called him Hitler 2.0. Mm-hmm. Now, and to me, it's just a propaganda. But the thing that inspires me about Trump is that how he is willing to make a stand, and he fights people that gets in his way. So most presidents have let people like CNN and the fake news push him around. Trump stands up to anyone in his way. And what to me is amazing about Trump, I like Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is a very smart woman with massive influence, right? The Clinton machine is a massive machine. Taking down Hillary Clinton takes a lot of brains.
And he did it.
He did it. It takes a lot of brains and firepower to take down someone like Hillary Clinton. He did it. He did it. And I think that's absolutely incredible. And part of the reason for that is, and I've read a lot of books and analysing this myself, one of the reasons, and Hillary Clinton even admitted this, and it's all available online, I encourage people to check it out. One of the things that Hillary Clinton's biggest weakness of and Trump's strength was that even Hillary's supporters didn't feel Hillary was being authentic and honest. And Hillary admitted this, by the way. Hillary always restrained herself from expressing what she really thinks. And that actually de-energized even her own voting base. Trump, however, just said what he thinks, probably too much, from day one. Even his critics appreciated his honesty. So love or hate Trump, there's no disguise as to what he's up to.
Edward, it's been a pleasure talking to you on the podcast, and your frankness is always appreciated.
Pleasure.
And I look forward to the next time we get to actually see you on stage.
Tim, I just got to say, keep up the great work, and thank you so much. I got to say, you're an amazing inspiration.
And if you want to learn more about Edward's approach to marketing and have him speak at your next event, then visit excellenceabove.com.au. And you can read all about Edward's services and perhaps even catch up at one of his local meetups. He does plenty of those. That's excellenceabove.com.au. And if you want to know more about me and my work, then head to www.yourmc.com.au. Thanks for taking the time to listen to this podcast. I hope it was both entertaining and educational, and I look forward to your company on the next edition. Until then, I'm Tim Stackpool. Bye-bye for now.